I think we have a culture that on both sides of the political aisle, I don't think we know how to deal with mental health. And this is somebody, saying this as somebody who has grown up in this environment, which you guys now know a lot about. In addition to my brother, like I said, my dad has dealt with a lot. And that's been a huge part of my life of, in and out of therapy, on and off of meds and that sort of thing. Both sides of the political aisle do not know how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Conservatives have a reputation of believing that mental health does not exist. I'm friends with a lot of people who believe that, who say it's all stupid, none of it is real. And I'm like, I literally have a brother in a hospital right now that cannot even function. I know, and obviously a lot of that is now like chemical in his brain, but it's like that is mental health. I know that it's real. I spent years in therapy. I can tell you that it's real, but I understand where you're coming from, because I think so many people, especially in my generation, use it as a crutch and will self-diagnose and say, oh, I'm so depressed. It's like, no, I think you're dealing with a minor inconvenience. I think we've normalized it a little too far and trivializing it. And I think there's also this kind of social contagion of people adopting mental health things and thinking that it's kind of cool to be depressed. It's very cool to be like a tortured soul these days. Mm-hmm. But then on the left, they claim to be, very caring. We're going to fix this. But then their solutions are, Social Security and, telling people that they, affirming all of their problems rather than saying, like, here are the solutions to make you get better. It's like, we'll give you, $1,200 every 2 weeks and say, yes, it's okay that you, have depression, rather than saying, no, let's fix this, because it is a lifestyle. It is something that you can take measures, whether you're going on meds or not, to make things better in your life. Even if it's literally just getting off of your phone and sitting out in the sun and eating a better diet, that does wonder for your brain. For a lot of people. Yes. And for some people, it doesn't. And you will, like my brother needs to be on meds, must be on meds. And for him, it's like, I do think that there need to be better mental health resources, because for somebody like him, his only option right now is a state hospital. There is one private place in the country that I have identified that if, like, my mom passes away and he's in Idaho right now and I need to, like, step in, like, as part of the, as taking care of things, there is one place that I can get him to if I don't want him to be, 11 hours away. I think he's more than that, because he's a couple of hours away from her. One place. It is in Tennessee that does, like, intensive care. And it's private and it costs thousands of dollars. But that's something that I think about in the back of my mind of, like, okay, I know that I will want to take that on, and I, like, agreed to take care of his estate and that sort of stuff. There's one of them. And obviously I don't think that the asylum system was great, and that's one thing that, Reagan got rid of. Mm-hmm. But, and they were obviously, they mistreated a lot of people, but there's nothing like that anymore. It's like, what happens to those people? Instead, they just end up on the street. Yeah. They end up abusing drugs.
That's what I've seen in Los Angeles. I think a lot of the people on the street, they're mentally ill.
Yes.
And they don't have any resources or places to turn. It's like, what are they going to do? They're on the street. It's either they get picked up by police, go to jail, get released right afterwards. Yeah. That doesn't solve anything.
No. And in my opinion, just giving them cash every week also does nothing. Mm-hmm. Because you can get more money if you're crazier. I remember my brother was with, like, this community of homeless guys, and one of them, who actually passed away a year ago, and we planned his funeral. He became a really good friend for my brother. I mean, this man was like 50 years old. He lived on the street for most of his life, was so tortured, knew that he was dying, and, like, took care of my brother in a lot of ways. And if Reed was in trouble, like, he would call me and be like, and he would be high out of his mind and still be like, Reed's in trouble, Reed's passed out, like, you need to come get him. And that's what, it was incredible. But he would fake seeing, like, aliens and have visions in order to get more money, because the crazier you are, you get more money. And so a lot of that is, like, put on. Because
how is that? How do they do that? How do they judge, like,
it's
how
like
severe?
You, like, go in front of a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or it's like.
But what does money help with in that scenario? Is that because, like, you're that much less likely to work?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. But then they don't actually, like, my brother never tried to get a job. The people that he was around never tried to get a job. One of them got into a halfway house. You have to apply for those.
Sure.
Like, the living facility that my brother was in LA, he had to apply to get in, and he had to pay like $50 a month or something like that. So he used his Social Security for that. You would get food stamps, but food stamps were separate than the Social Security cash that you were literally just given. And so there wasn't an incentive for him to do that. And when you are that mentally gone, like, all he cared about was getting drugs. So if he was getting $1,200 every 2 weeks to go just smoke pot and, like, trip on acid and that sort of thing, like, he was going to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I think, as somebody who is not really in favor of a lot of government intervention, but I still think, we do have these resources. I think that you're just allocating the wrong resources to these people. And you think the money is going to fix it, and then you're going to pat yourself on the back, like the LA, government. Like, this is so great. We're fixing all this. It's like, look at the people on your streets. They're literally suffering, and they just die there. And there's no other resources, and just giving away taxpayer dollars does nothing. And there's so many incredible organizations and nonprofits and churches that step in and try to help, but there's only so much that they can do. But then on the conservative side, I think that there is such a missed opportunity on the right, because we talk about personal responsibility and accountability, and you need to be a productive member of society and take care of your health. Like, there are all these studies that, conservatives are happier than liberals. Conservatives take care of themselves more because they care about personal responsibility. They don't want to rely on anybody else. That is an opportunity to reach those people and say, like, you are worth more. Like, we can help you, rather than like affirming this literal illness. It should not be, hey, you don't have a problem, you're being stupid. It should be, okay, what are the necessary steps in order to get you out of this, because you deserve more, because you have more potential.
Right.
And it's like, that is such a good, whether you care about politics or not, it's like, that is what we should be giving these people. It's not just throwing them cash, being like, oh, so sorry that you are mentally ill.
So how do you make a change on that?
I have no idea. It may be cultural. I go back to like changing the conversation about it. I'm very, very open about talking with my family's mental health issues, which I think is something that is very not really seen on the right. I'm really the only person that I know of that talks about this stuff very, very publicly. I spent years in therapy. I would have like panic attacks weekly when going through stuff with my brother. And right after I got emancipated, my mom was back in Tennessee finalizing her divorce. I would have to like find my brother on the street and would like maybe see him passed out, or like he was tripping on something. Like, it was awful. And I dealt with that for years. I had therapy. Before a lot of that started, I did therapy with my brother to kind of deal with his twin's death, and we did therapy together because he only agreed to do it if I would do it with him. And then I had therapy to deal with that brother.
Wow.
So I've been in it a lot. And it's like, I know that it's real. I know people deal with it. I know that our generation is the most mentally ill generation in history. So it's like,
why?
There's so many reasons. I think social media has a lot to do with it.
Technology.
Yeah. I think that's a huge portion of it.
Not being like present in the real world.
Yeah.
I would say.
I think that the fear porn in the world around us, where everything, the media is designed to get clicks, like you said. The world is ending, everybody's worried about, gun violence. People are worried about, the future of this country, democracy ending. Climate is actually, it is the number one stressor for our generation. Like, there is climate anxiety, climate depression is now like an actual diagnosis that you can have. And our media like feeds into that. And so I think that's a big part of it. And it's interesting that a lot of the stressors for our generation is external, rather than like, I always thought of mine as like it came from my family. It was very internal, but all of this is like all the external stuff.
I think it's just because we have more access to everything, and it's immediate.
Yeah.
And I still think it's the extremes. Like, I keep going back to TikTok, just showing like the worst of the worst of the worst on either end of the spectrum, just to get like clicks, comments. I think it was on Facebook. The angrier someone gets, the more likely that is to be at the top of the page.
Yeah,
and it was anger that they went after, not fear or sadness. It was like, how angry is this going to make them to stay on here and write a comment?
And I think that, we can have that conversation too about like how many people are actually diagnosed with things, because we look at the stats for Gen Z and it's like our numbers are off the charts, but some of those are self-diagnosed, self-proclaimed, whatever. So I think that's another conversation. But also, like you said, we're being fed this very extreme content. So what is the impact that is having on the viewers? So then if it's constantly angry, if everybody around you is constantly depressed, they're all anxious, everybody's having this like identity crisis constantly, it's like that becomes then the norm. And whether you have that extreme or not, I just see people kind of becoming complacent and believing that that's just the norm.